Well, hey, Sound Life Growth Groups. It's Susie and Kyle, and we are so excited. It's week 2 of Growth Groups, and we're glad you're here. We're glad you're doing this step to get in community in the family of God. And just remember, we're here to encourage one another. Today is a crazy deep subject and personal, but remember, you're here to encourage one another, build each other up. And don't forget to bring those Bibles and journals. Those will be really helpful for you as we jump into the sermon and discuss what stood out to us.
Yeah. So this Sunday we talked about a lot of different things.
Yes.
But I think that we want to focus really on kind of the overarching theme, which is guarding this treasure that we have. And this treasure being our soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we as humans are more than just a physical being. We're also a spiritual being. We have souls. And that's the part of us that we need to be guarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things in our world that is trying to pull that away from us and trying to damage that in some way. And it's hard because we don't always see that, right? Because the spiritual world is something that is unseen, right? And so we have to be cautious of what we're taking in, what we're doing, how we're guarding that treasure that is our soul.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think that it's even something culture tries to divorce from each other is that your body is not connected to anything else. Like you could do something with your body and it doesn't have any other consequences. And that's just not what the Bible teaches us, is that it is a soul deep thing that we do. Our mind, our soul, our body, they're all connected. So I do think it is it's a lie that we fight as Christians, but that's what we believe as citizens of a new kingdom.
Yeah, and that really ties into the first part of what the message was about. And this is a common theme throughout the Bible, really, is this talk about sexual immorality. Mm-hmm. And that's about that, right? Like, it's us in our world today, people in our culture try to separate that and say, you can have sex with whoever because it has no impact on your soul, right? But the reality is that sexual acts are more than just physical. It's very spiritual. Mm-hmm. And so we as Christians have to believe that and to guard that, right? Mm-hmm. To know that what we do is more than just physical. It's actually spiritual as well. And that's why there is such an emphasis on the sex between a husband and a wife, because that is supposed to be sacred. It's a covenant, right? It's the two becoming one, as Genesis mentions, right? And so that's really important for us to know and to practice that. And I think more than just sexual stuff, it's everything, right? Like our souls are so valuable to God, and so how are we guarding that? How are we protecting that? What are we listening to? What are we intaking? Whether it's entertainment, whether it's people we hang out with, right? Like, how are we feeding our souls the right things and not the wrong things?
Yeah, that's really good. Because, and I think Jesus challenges us that it's more, it's that intake that matters, right? He says, even if you've looked at somebody with lust, but I think we can, like you're saying, translate that to so many other things. What else are we allowing in our lives that we shouldn't even look at as Christians, And that doesn't necessarily have to be sinful, but just what is not beneficial. And Paul says that. He's like, hey, focus on the things that are good and lovely and worthy. That is what we're doing to have that mind of Christ in us. And sometimes we even just do ourselves a disservice by what we intake and not protecting that treasure, like you're saying.
Yeah, because we might not even realize how impactful that is. One thing for me that I'm passionate about music, right? And music is one of those things that doesn't need your permission to access your soul.
That's
really
good.
You listen to a song and it might not even be a Christian song, but if it's got a nice beat, you're moving to it, right? And whatever the song is, it does something to you internally. And so that's something to really take into consideration. Music is a huge one, and I have to be cautious about that for me. I love music, but I have to make sure that I'm always putting in spiritually pure music, like worship music and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. It reminds me of something that we heard in the sermon. If you're a citizen of heaven, obedience is expected over what is convenient and necessary in our culture. So, it's not necessary or a command to change the music you listen to, but it's obedience to what God has called us to do. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's that what is beneficial. Right? And thinking about even what we eat, right? A really nice burger, it tastes great. It may not be good for you in the long run, But like what is beneficial for us,
Mm-hmm.
like, and that's I think really important. And we see that physically, like if we're eating healthy, right, and we're doing the things physically, that changes us.
Yeah.
But that also changes, or like what we intake spiritually and emotionally, that is also impacting our spiritual side as well. And that reflects on like what we pour out, how we interact with people, how we love other people, how we are acting as citizens of heaven, being a light to the world, right? If we're intaking pure things and lovely things, like we're going to then produce that out as well.
Yeah, that's good. I think it comes back to, disciplining ourselves and then just having integrity, and that was kind of the last few verses that we heard about this Sunday. Matthew 5 verses 33 through 37, it says, "You have also heard that our ancestors were told, 'You must not break your vows. You must carry out the vows you make to the Lord.' But I say, do not make any vows. Do not say, 'By heaven,' because heaven is God's throne. And do not say, 'By the earth,' because the earth is his footstool. And do not say, 'By Jerusalem,' for Jerusalem is a city of the great king. Do not even say, 'By my head,' for you can't turn one hair white or black. Just say a simple, 'Yes, I will,' or 'No, I won't.' Anything beyond this is from the evil one." And so I think it's kind of just comes back to being people that have integrity, that when we say we're going to do something, we do it, and we don't like have to make these lofty promises or anything like that, but that we commit to follow God's word in all areas of our life, and even in our words, like we protect our words.
Yeah, so this really brings us to the question that we have for you guys, and that is, what do you do to protect that treasure of your soul that we've been talking about? Like, what are you doing actively to protect that? What are you intaking? What are you listening to? What are the thoughts that are coming through your mind? Like, what are you submitting to God to keep that treasure protected?
Yeah. And how does that challenge you? Like if you're like, I don't know, I'm not doing that. Like that challenges me because I'm watching this or I'm doing this, whatever. Share that too. It's okay. This is a safe place to talk and be real with one another. And we only get better when we're honest and authentic.
Yeah. Those people around the circle here, they're your family. And so be open, be vulnerable, and see what God can do through this community of people.
Yeah. Have a great week, guys.